Hello folks and welcome to this week's review. I'm looking at a set of isolation feet, accessories therefore, isolation feet for your speakers. Now these things are basically screwed underneath your floor standing speakers, either directly into the cabinet if there are holes in that cabinet, or the outrigger kind of things, accessory kind of stand things as floor standers have. If you have stand mounted speakers, well, these feet can screw into the actual stands themselves. So any type of speakers, you might say, in that case. They are from a UK company called Stack Audio, and these particular accessories are called Auvas, A-U-V-A, Auva 50s to be precise. Now, this is not the first time I've looked at, used and reviewed a set of high-end, and they are high-end, bear that in mind folks, these are high-end accessories, high-end Auva speaker isolation feet, as I say, from the British hi-fi outfit Stack Audio. The Auva 50s are the latest designs in that range. That range now consists of 3 models. At the very top of that range are the Auva 100s, and they cost, for a set of 8 feet, £1,240. Next in line, a little bit further down, are the Auva 70s, and they cost, for a set of 8 feet, £840. Now, I have used and I have reviewed both of those designs, and I'll put a review link way down deep in the description if you'd like to read that review. Now these smaller feet, the Auva 50s, well, they reduce the price still further to £435 for a set of 8 feet. You can order fewer feet if required, which will of course further lower the price. And that price includes a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you get them and you don't like them, you can send them back. There's free shipping in the UK and part subsidized postage for the rest of the world. As with the Auva 70s and 100s, the Auva 50s are designed, as I say, to screw underneath your speakers, speaker stands, connected outrigger stands, or whatever you got. Stack Audio supply a range of screw threaded bolt options to suit your hardware, and sometimes hardware comes with different sized bolt holes. So Stack, well, they can supply your needs on that score, so no need to worry about that. Installation is very simple indeed. You just need to attach the selected bolt to the speaker or the speaker stand, and then you screw the foot to the bolt, or vice versa. And that's it. Job done. Once connected, well, the Auva 50s, I wouldn't say they're particularly intrusive at all. They only span 50mm by 30mm, which is about somewhere around 1 inch by 2 inches. Now, as I mentioned in the review of the Auva 70s and 100s, if you've read that review, most speaker feet feature a vibration-absorbing material, a bit like cork or rubber, with a promise to lower the noise floor. Now, if you have read the text version of the Auva 70s and 100s, most speaker feet feature, well, freebies actually tend to feature giveaway spikes. I don't like spikes. I think spikes are worse than useless. Never got on with spikes. Anyway, most speakers will arrive either with nothing at all, or at the very most, spikes. Now, if you buy third-party feet, now most of those will arrive with vibration-absorbing material, something like cork or rubber or some other polymer, or a mixture of 2 or 3, with a promise to lower the noise floor. Now, the technology, that tends to be compression-based, so you have the weight of the speaker pushing down on the actual foot, and that foot supplies a sort of damping effect, and hopefully the vibration is absorbed in that way. Now, the Auvas, they really don't use that approach at all. In fact, they use something completely different. Basically, what you've got is a strong, hollow pod, and inside of that pod are a number of cells. The more expensive the type of foot you buy, the 50, the 70, the 100, the more cells are in the foot. And that's what you're really buying here. But it's not just the cells, it's what goes in the cells. There are a whole host of loose particles. I know there's tungsten in there, plus other stuff. So while you're playing music and during use, your speaker will be vibrating all over the place from that music. Those particles will be colliding, and that vibration will turn into heat, and that'll disappear into the air. Now, what I've said is rather simplistic because there's actually more going on in here. The design of the Auvas, well, they are based on a patent-pending technology, so really that part of the tech is rather secret. Now, I've seen this kind of technology approach used in other hi-fi gear, but it's not really common in speaker isolation feet, especially at this price point. Now, as I hinted at earlier on, for Auva feet, the more cells in a foot, the better the performance, but the more expensive is that foot. Hence, the Auva 100s, well, they feature 5 cells in each foot. The Auva 70s, they feature 3 in each foot, while the Auva 50s, well, you get 2 per foot. Hence, that reduced price. Now, apart from a selection of your chosen installation bolts, you also get carpet spikes or felt pads for hard floors to fit on each foot. And I selected the pads. Besides, I'm not a fan of spikes, as I've said, so felt pads would have been my choice no matter what the floor type. Once fitted, the feet are solid, rock solid. They add immediate stability to any speaker and or stand. But question is, how do they sound? Well, let's go to the sound quality tests and we'll find out. And welcome to the sound quality tests for the Auva 50s speaker isolation feet. And I had a lot of kit hanging around from the recent Yellowhorn Power Amplifier review, which I did last week. God, time flies. Anyway, so all that was already set up and I used most of that. So I still have my Q Acoustic 5020 speakers and I have my Hi-Fi Racks speaker stands. So I thought an ideal match. I thought I'd place my Auva 50s underneath those Hi-Fi Racks stands. But to begin with, before I added the Auva 50s to my stands, I decided just to play with the stands on the carpet. So speaker, stands, carpet, nothing else. And I decided to get used to that sound. And while I was doing that, well, I have a Glenn Campbell CD box set available, so I played his old hit, Country Boy. So to begin, played as is with no feet or any support on my speaker stands. Well, the sound from my speakers was pretty dull, I've got to say, with rounded off mids and treble. The bass was pretty flabby and there was no focus. There wasn't a great deal of precision in the mid-range. Overall, the sound was rather flat and sounded a bit like sonic wallpaper. I then brought in a set of 8 relatively low-cost Soundeck Mk.Ii minis. These are very simple feet which sit loosely, as it were, underneath the stands. And I've reviewed these already and I highly recommend them. These feet use constrained damping as the inner tech to drain vibration. So what you've got basically are 2 pieces of rather tough steel, and in between those 2 steel plates is a kind of gel substance that never really sets. And this gel, well, I think it absorbs vibration and heat is dissipated from that point. The Soundeck feet offer great value, and I used a set of 8 a 4-pair stand, and the price was, I think it was 108. Yes, £108 for the lot. The sonic results were oh so much better than no feet at all. So you had a clearer soundstage that moved away from that muddy sound. This allowed more mid-range detail to be heard. So how about acoustic guitar strums? Well, they sounded like a group of strings flying in close formation for the very first time, while bass had a crisper, tighter effect. Strings were smoother too. Oh, and I could hear the bass guitar and the cymbals for the first time. So on a quick tangent, this is why you need isolation feet for your speakers and or your speaker stands. That's how important they are. Do not neglect them. Doesn't matter how expensive your system is. Grab some isolation feet for your speakers and or stands. Anyway, back to the plot. And I then moved up the ladder in terms of price, and I drafted in a set of 8 feet from another UK company called Blue Horizon. And incidentally, Soundeck, again, a UK company based up in Newcastle. I can't remember where Blue Horizon is based, but I'll put a link for everything down below and you can check them out if you fancy. Now, I use the Mark I versions of the Blue Horizon feet, and there are Mark IIs out there, and I think part of the problem, as you'll see yourself here, is that the Mark Is, well, they have an outer metal skin, and underneath that is the damping material, a combination of cork and rubber. But that outer metal case, which keeps the rigidity and the structural integrity, it's liable to tarnish, as you can see. So when I first received these, they were rather shiny silver. No more, hey, as you can see here. So I think the Mark IIs solved that issue. Anyway, again, I have reviewed these feet back in my distant past, and I love them. These feet use compression technology for each foot. And as I say, you've got that combo of cork and rubber and that metal cover. Using the speakers with the Blue Horizons underneath added extra fragility to the upper mids and the treble. There was more air and space around this area too. More than the Soundecks, I've got to say. Secondary percussion strikes extended further in time. Bass was good. Not quite as solid or as deep as the Soundeck feet, but still respectable. Now, it was at this point that I changed to the Auva 50s, and they are priced at more than double the Blue Horizon. Did I say the price? I don't think I did I? Well, a set of 8 Blue Horizons going to cost you about £180, I reckon. Like I say, the Auva 50s are priced at more than double that at £435 for a set of 8. Now, this was the first of the designs featured here to allow the feet to be fixed to the stands via a screw threaded bolt. More substantial in build, the Auvas looked solid and massy when in place and when compared to the other feet. But they also included that heat dissipation technology, the secret of the whole design. During play, how do the 50s sound? Well, there are 2 factors, 2 points of interest when listening to the Auva 50s. Firstly, there's the sheer rigidity of the feet themselves. In relative terms, these are chunky, they are very strong, they feel massy, and then there's the fact that they are attached to the stand via a screw threaded bolt. This helps the bass no end. The bass is very firm, it's strong, and has a naturalistic, organic realism that sounds expensive. It wasn't just the screw threaded bolt. It's more to do with the tech, the vibration dissipating technology, because in this configuration, bass sounded serious. It gets its head down and it concentrates. There's no messing around here. Same with the upper mids and the treble. The noise floor really drops through the floor, which means there's a whole lot more information coming through to your ears. So Acoustic guitars do everything that the other feet did, but in addition, there's an extra metallic, stringy response going on. There's a resonance here from the strings. Secondary percussion had an extra fragility, an extra delicacy with plenty of reverb to hold the notes. Vocals had a distinct emotion and nuance. Now, just to shake things up a little bit, I moved to vinyl and I played an album by Roy Wood called Boulders. I think this is one of his 70s releases. Again, the effects were maintained. The vocals from the Roy Wood album had plenty of emotion, a whole heap of nuance. Any strings on that album, and I moved about a lot, well, they sounded smooth, but also large and imposing. Sometimes there was a real wall of sound from the strings. It was the focus and precision around the mid-range that really impressed here. Each and every note played by each and every instrument was tracked, while the soundstage, for the very first time, had real structure. And when I say that, I mean it sounded organized, as if someone was placing the instruments here and there for a reason. It wasn't just haphazard. There was a real frame around the soundstage, a real sense of shape. Everything felt meant, if you see what I mean. So that's my basic review of the Auva 50s. Let me give you some final thoughts, then I'll do a few pros and cons, and I'll give you a rating. Now, if you have read my review of the Auva 70s and 100 speaker isolation feet, you will know how impressed I was with those British designs. Question is, are the Auva 50s better or on par with the performance of the 100s? No, I wouldn't say they are. The 100s just go further, but so does the price. Same with the 70s. They are sonically superior to these 50s, but the price is, again, that much higher. In terms of the Auva range, you really do get what you pay for. And sure, the Auva 50s are not in themselves exactly cheap, but really, when compared to other speaker isolation feet on the market, well, if you're looking for a source of balance, one that combines a relatively low price, well, relative to the Auva 70s and 100s at any rate, and high quality performance, then the Auva 50s are what you need. In performance terms alone, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, to compare. The Auva 50s stand head and shoulders above anything else on the market that I've heard, at any rate, for a similar or lower price. Pros and cons. I loved the compact size. The Auva 100s, well, they're great sounding, but they're relatively large. The 50s, they fit neatly underneath your speakers or speaker stands. Overall sound quality, well, they really show the value of good quality isolation feet under speakers and or stands. Easy to install. I had my feet on my speaker stands in a jiffy. Finally, the combination of build quality and rigidity. These feet are solid, and when they're attached to your speakers and your stands, everything is solid. In terms of the bad side, there ain't no bad side. So because of that, I'm not only going to give an award-winning rating to the Stack Audio Auva 50s, I'm going to give a very high award-winning rating, and I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10, a deeply groovy. Congratulations to Stack Audio. And that's your lot. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video. If I could ask you down below if you can click on the like and subscribe buttons, just helps this channel to progress, and I'd appreciate that very much. Further down, there will be links, as I say, to that Auva 70 and 100 review if you want to check that out on my website. There is, apart from the website, there are links to my Facebook group, and if you want to join that, you can. You're very welcome. There's also my Patreon page, and that's where you'll find hi-fi news, etc. And there's another new episode this week. So please check that out. That's where it lives, exclusively on my Patreon page. There's lots of other stuff over there too, lots of other exclusives, buyer's guides, and there's text features and reviews on different music thingamybobs, all kinds of stuff. Check it out. I'll be back on Friday with a music alerts video. So check out that. Stuff I've received in that week, any CDs or vinyl or even tape. I'll tell you about it on Friday. Until then, folks, and I hope to have your company, incidentally. Until then, bye-bye for now.